Good afternoon, manufacturing all-stars, and welcome to this episode of Manufacturing Happy Hour. Today, you're going to learn about a critical piece of digital transformation. We're going to be talking about scalable production management, specifically how you can build a part correctly the first time using digital tools. I'm joined by John Stanwood. Cheers, John.
Cheers, Chris.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So John is a technical consultant for our information solutions and a vehicle component and assembly extraordinaire from a previous life. So we're happy to have you on, and let's start off with some baseline. You know, we're talking about scalable production management and building parts correctly. Let's talk about what things might look like on a traditional factory floor today.
Sure. Even our example here, we're doing complex electronics manufacturing. And so it's very common at a workstation in a manual operation to have a laminated sheet with work instructions.
Right.
Sometimes pictures, sometimes it's a flip chart in a binder.
Yep.
So it takes a lot of time away from the actual assembly to go look at things.
Right.
And you get no feedback about what you're doing while you're doing it. So if you might pick the wrong part, you might be using a torque tool to assemble something, and there's nothing tracking that, right? Other than you kind of just taking your pen and marking down, yeah, I did that. Right. And these days it's really important to have that term we use, digital thread.
Yes.
Right? To say, this is what I made, here's how much of it I made, here's where it was made, and really to prove that it was done right the first time.
Yeah.
So that in case there is what we could call a quality spill, you're limiting the impact of that.
Yep.
So you don't want to make thousands of something only to find out that your work instructions might have been wrong.
Sure.
Even to begin with.
Yeah,
right?
Makes a lot of sense. And what I love about it is this is a topic that kind of seems pretty straightforward right off the bat. You're talking about taking a laminate, some work instructions that are just, by the workstation, and digitizing those. But the reality is that feedback loop is what I find so critical, where you're getting information as you're going through to, be able to track defects later at some point.
That's where that power is.
Yeah.
And with more and more connectivity in factories, wireless tooling, all kinds of things, we want to harness that data to build that complete digital picture of what happened.
For sure. So, maybe take us through a little bit more. Let's say we're like scanning a part. How do these digital work instructions play in?
Sure. So, in our example, we have an ERP that has all of that material info.
Right.
Say, to build this assembly, we need these kinds of subcomponents, and you might get those subcomponents from a supplier. So the work instruction would say, okay, at this point in time, you need to get that subcomponent.
Right.
And in our example, we have an operator scanning a barcode on a bin.
So
say this is what I picked
something like
from.
a barcode, like on one of these things.
And say, okay, yep, this is what I need. I got the right one.
Yep.
And then a lot of times there's a serialized barcode on here from the supplier.
Right.
So now you know, yes, I got the right part. That next scan is which exact part.
Right.
So that once everything's assembled, even if you can't see it later on, you have that full traceability and genealogy to say which exact component went in that assembly.
Well, I love that traceability and genealogy, because let's say, I think you gave an example earlier, like, if you go through and you find some defects, maybe you find out it's when, like, Bob, for example, is having a bad day.
And we pick on Bob a lot.
Sure, yeah. Bob, sorry, Bob. We know it's not always your fault, but your name is one syllable. It comes right off the tongue. Well, we're talking digital work instructions. Let's take this another level really quickly. Augmented reality, how would that play into this also?
Okay, so that's the next logical thing. I'm used to, in the plants that are digitized, they may have a screen like this right over you, and you're doing your work and you have to constantly refer to that screen as you go to the next step. The next thing is, a lot of times you're wearing safety glasses anyway, right? So let's put ones where you're putting that image in context of exactly what you're doing right there. And so you can, again, connect to any tooling or automation to get the live data back in and get that immediate feedback.
Yeah.
And we have hotspots and waypoints on there to say, reach to this bin to get that subcomponent, and then a little video animation to say, okay, put it here, and now put it together. Yeah. And so it's really good when Bob wants to go on vacation. Right. Okay. And someone else has to go do Bob's work. Yes. That person can watch that, and it'll guide them through those steps.
Makes a lot of sense. So, one theme I'm hearing for the audience out there is it's all about the feedback, whether you're hearing about augmented reality, whether you're hearing about digitization or digital transformation, in our case, digital work instructions. It's really being able to get that information back and having that feedback loop and having that genealogy front and back, like you mentioned.
Correct.
So, as we're going through this, I guess, how do we visualize all this? We've got all this great information. What's kind of the way we look at this then?
Right, so there's two ways. We've been talking about everything of the people that are actually assembling things or going about their work, helping them do that correctly the first time. The next thing is to be able to, in real time, for operations to see where their work in process is or what's coming from a previous upstream station or where it's going. So we're using ThingWorx, the concept of a mashup, right, to have that single view of what's happening from many disparate systems.
Right, and ThingWorx is what you'd call that IoT platform where, like you said, disparate systems, you're taking data from different parts of the factory floor, the plant, the facility, whatever word you're calling where your manufacturing operation is.
Yes, and providing that visibility into all of those things, no matter where they're from.
Awesome. Well, before we get to a call to action, is there anything you wish I would have asked you that I did not yet around this solution?
Oh, what about these days where you have to introduce more product flexibly?
Perfect.
That's a really good example of where you have experienced operators in a lot of plants. They know how to make the products they've made often, but when new products are getting introduced, now it's time to refer to those instructions.
Right.
And that's where it becomes really critical. And all eyes are on that new product, making sure that that initial build and those initial sellable products are correct.
Well, that's a great example and a great final point to add, because not only is it about products, like new product introductions, but it's also about people as well, which oftentimes when we're talking technology, people forget that. Like your example with Bob going on vacation, it's just as important to have that for new folks coming in as it is when a new product is introduced.
Right, absolutely.
So I guess as we're wrapping up, John, what's our call to action for our audience out there today?
Well, if you want to learn more about this or other components of the FactoryTalk InnovationSuite powered by PTC, contact your Rockwell Automation sales representative, and they will start interviewing you to figure out exactly where you are in your digital transformation journey and help you take that next step and extract value out of your assets.
Awesome. And I'm going to have a link to InnovationSuite below this video, so you can check that out as well if you want more information before you make that call. In the meantime, John, thanks so much for being on the show today.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And for those of you out there, stay innovative, stay thirsty. We'll catch you back here on Manufacturing Happy Hour real soon. Cheers.